And we are live down that rabbit hole in search for more red pills, or as I often say, red pill suppositories. Welcome, everybody, to AB Live here at the virtual Alexandria. And I hope everybody's doing all right. My name is Miguel Connor, as always, your Pompatus of Gnosis. And as always, guiding you through that madman, guiding you across the waters of creation. And very excited today. We will have the second part of our show, cracking the code of the Shining, or the Shining Code. Last show was very popular, got a lot of traffic, a lot of interest, and of course, a lot of questions about our guest's amazing and thorough exploration of Stanley Kubrick's labyrinth mind, one of the most intriguing minds in the history of art, cinema, and of course, a culture. So we would definitely get to that, and very excited again. And with us again, we've got David Block. David, how are you doing today? And thanks for coming back. Are you
It's
there,
great.
David?
Thank you, Miguel. Nice to hear that the first show was pop. Yeah, the sun comes and goes. Yeah,
For
yeah, it's
you or for
great.
me?
Thank you.
Okay.
And
Uh, well, the technology archons are always busy, but it really won't matter because again, once you get started with your
yeah,
presentation, you can just run with it. Again, it's so fascinating. We can take care of it, and always fascinating too. We've got the Moondog
yeah,
Vance, who's looks like he's over there at the Overlook Hotel. Any
Yeah.
killings over there, Vance?
Not today. The kitchen's all tidied up, and I went to room 237. That's all straightened out. The maid service has to get in there still.
But you've actually been there, as we were chatting before, right?
Yeah, the interiors of the movie were based on the Awani Hotel, which is now called something else in Yosemite. And I've been there several times. I haven't stayed there, but anytime I went to Yosemite, usually go to the Awani. It's a little bit off the beaten track, away from the Yosemite Lodge, but it's worth going. It's looks very much like the interiors of the movie.
Yeah, very iconic
cool.
in cinema. Awesome. Well, we got people
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
into the chat room. As always, if you have any
nice.
questions for David, please write them down in all caps, question marks. Super chats will, of course, get the privilege of being at the top of the list, and we will try very hard to get to your questions as always. As far as housekeeping, June, the month of Juno or Hera, is very exciting. We got some very cool upcoming shows, including a show on Cursed and Occult America. We'll be keeping the vibe of The Shining, where we were joined by Nate the Occult fan and the great Steven Snyder or Recluse with some amazing insights on all the portals and hauntings and all the shenanigans going around in North America. Then shows we've got a live show with Micah Dank, who put out a book with a co-author, a children's book, Astrotheology. That will be our next live show. So, of course, needless to say, you're going to get a lot of astrotheology, astrology, and mysticism. And also, which I'm very excited about, we will have a show later in the month on the Gnostic themes in the OA, one of the shows that has intrigued me very much. We have a scholar that will be joining us, and the insights just don't go to the OA. They will go to the type of medium that is the OA, the sort of new occult content that includes Stranger Things, Sense8, and of course that's influenced by David Lynch, and Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, and all those, this sort of meta mysticism, fiction or cinema. So very excited about that. Other than that, please support the show if you can. Again, times are hard. Everybody's taking a hit with the inflation and other economic issues, including myself. And as I like to say, when things get tough, let's help each other. Please support alternative podcasts, content creators. Somebody donated a full year of shows. So if you're interested, I would love to give it to you. As I always say, if you need any full shows that I have, just let me know. I'm very happy to give you full shows. There have been individuals who have asked for a free yearly subscriptions, and I have been glad to give it to them, or entrance to the Finding Hermes program. Again, we're here to support each other in any way you can. Other than that, nothing I can think about. So, David, do you want to get started, or do you want to say anything before the presentation or the feedback from our last show?
No, we can start away maybe. Any questions I can answer to begin with, or I don't know
Not
about
at
the
the moment.
connection.
Yeah, the connection is not very good. Is that on your end?
I think it would be hard for him to tell.
Good question.
Do you want to log out and log back in, and then we'll get started? All right. Well, hopefully David will come back and we can overcome these techno archons that are always assaulting us. Are you there, David?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, Miguel was suggesting that you log out and log back in to reset the connection. Yeah, disconnect and connect.
Should I look out? Yeah,
Jump out and log back in. Maybe that'll help. It's helped
sometimes
before.
it does help. Yep.
Yeah, we also need to remind him, maybe make sure that I was listening to Lawrence Caruana's interview, and remember, we just had to tell him to close all extra programs and everything else that might be draining the Wi-Fi.
Yes. Okay. Judging by the video,
David?
I'm not sure that helped. He's back in.
David, can you
Is
hear
it
us?
better now?
No, it's not. Can you
The video-
you have
I
any
hear
other
you.
programs? Why don't you reboot your
You don't hear
Wi-Fi? No, it's really bad, David.
Hmm.
Why don't you jump out, maybe
Is
reboot
it
your Wi-Fi,
right?
make sure you... I don't think
Yep.
he's listening to me.
Yep, I'll come back.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I should have gotten all the house cleaning done after that. Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes it happens, less often than not in these days of podcasting. Yeah, we already have a question over there in the chat.
Yeah.
Damn Archons, boomer tech. Here, let's put some...
Yeah, I had that question too about the Red Book, because I didn't think the Red Book was published at the time that The Shining was made, and so they showed the Red Book on the manager's desk there. That was supposed to be a tie-in to Jung.
Oh yeah. Well, it was known that Jung had a Red Book, but during those days, only his family had access to it. There was some stuff, leaked from the Black Book that we knew about. Obviously, the idea of Abraxas had been leaked out, 7 Sermons to the Dead, but the Red Book itself was just nobody knew about it unless it was Jung's family, if you would.
Yeah, did they even? Oh, here he is. Let's see, Adam here. Okay, David, let's see how you did.
Here.
Oh, not too much. Try disabling your video. Well, wait a minute. Maybe it seems to be clearing up. Go ahead and keep talking. So, testing 1, 2. We're talking about the Red Book. Oh.
Yeah, it's really bad, David. I don't know what the problem is.
How about can you turn off your camera? Turn off the camera and see if the audio only will come through. Uh-oh.
We lost David.
We
He's
lost
been
the whole
taken.
thing. Maybe oh, you know what? The camera and microphone may be integrated. Yeah, that makes sense. Hilly Caper. That makes sense. Yeah, actually, it's a miracle that we can talk to people over the Atlantic and Pacific, mostly Atlantic for us.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it is, but I don't think it's on our end. I think our Wi-Fi is just
No,
fine. So it's got
you
to
and
be
I are
something
doing
that.
okay.
Oh yeah, we are kind of. Whatever vestiges of sanity and clarity we have seem to be going through Vance.
Okay. Okay. Is it better?
Is it better?
Much better.
Yeah, I think you might have done.
It is.
Oh yeah, very. You're
I
clear,
lower
man.
the quality of the camera.
Then maybe that was it.
Is it better?
Yes, so far.
Much
We'll
better
see.
now.
Yeah, keep
Yeah.
talking,
Nice.
David.
That's two sentences in a row we heard.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about the technology. I have had a lot of problem with my Wi-Fi in the week before this, so I hope
Yes.
it will work now.
I think so.
I've changed
whatever you did.
Nice, good.
All right.
Sounds
Well, why
good.
don't we get started
Okay.
before we lose you? Because
You
I
think
know
we
I
should
want to hear about
start?
the demiurge. Yeah, I
Or-
looked at your slides. All right. Well,
And
we'll get started immediately. Let's see. All right. Go ahead, David. All you, and let me know when you want me to change the slides.
Yeah. All right. Let's start, and then we take questions later on. Then is it okay?
Let's do it.
That'd be nice. Yeah. All right. Part 2, and I will talk about a little bit different topics, but we will concentrate on the demiurge and the labyrinth and the gold room. And this will be a little bit speculative, but I will argue that Stanley Kubrick was well versed in different esoteric traditions, such as Mithra and other traditions. I will come to them. So I have to talk about our other films he have done as well, but I will always come back to the movie The Shining, but I will take you on some journeys and come back to it just to prove my point. So I will always come back to the movie The Shining, but bear with me for a while and I will try to connect the dots here. All right. In part 2, we have 3 parts. Part 1, In Search of the Demiurge. Part 2, Anunnaki, They Came for Gold. Part 3, Baal Hammon and the Hypercosmic Demiurge. Part 4, Sounds of Silence. That is part 4. The 3 previous part was the presentation before. And in part 5, I will talk about Secrets of Tarot, Mithra and the Tarot. Part 3, Janus, Stargates and the number 11. Part 4, The Eternal Return. And in part 6, I will talk about Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Disney and the Color of Change, The Wizard of Oz, Eyes Wide Shut, Transhumanism and Posthumanism, and The Space Odyssey 1 and the Rainbow Bridge. And that's the last. All right, next slide. Oh, now we have the wrong part there, Miguel. In Search of the Demiurge is the first part. Sorry, that is.
I'm confused here.
Yeah, it's 2A. I sent you the last.
Yeah, this one is 2A. Okay. Do you want me to just scroll over to, you want to do Rainbow Bridge, or want me to scroll all the way to the Demiurge?
In Search of the Demiurge, I send it in 3 parts to you.
Yeah, I don't understand what you're saying. This is the last slide you sent me. I just uploaded it.
Okay, I send it into 3 parts, part 2A, 2B, and 2C.
You send it in 3. Oh,
yeah, I had to because it was too big. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why the PowerPoint get that big. So I had to divide it into 3 parts, and I labeled it 2A, the first part, and 2B the second, and 2C the third.
All right. Ooh, this is turning out to be. All right. Let me see. I think I can upload it real quick. 2A. Let's take this out. This is setting, share, slides from your computer.
I don't know why the file was so big, because it wasn't more slides in this one than the previous one. But I had to divide it into 3 parts. Do you find it, Miguel?
Yeah, it's uploading.
Nice. Good. Sorry.
Live internet. This is what people do on the internet. They download things. And you see it right here.
Now, let's start then. Part 1, In Search of the Demiurge.
This one?
Next one. In Search of the Demiurge, yes, there we start. Part 1, In Search of the Demiurge. We're going to talk about the Demiurge, a very Gnostic theme. But the Demiurge is very hard to say who is the Demiurge. There are different ideas about the Demiurge and the Archons and who they are. And in different esoteric traditions, they point to different Demiurge and have different ideas about it. I will discuss some of the ideas here. And the ideas to Shining and what Kubrick tried to say about it. Next slide. In the movie, we have the famous scene where Jack is washing over the labyrinth. And of course, this is a reference to the Demiurge. Now, John Lamb Lash, the Gnostic scholar, he points out Samael as the Demiurge. And if he's correct, then, I mean, that's a close case then, because I pointed to Jack as the Demiurge. And Jack is attributed to Samael. Or he is possessed by Samael, or he is an archetype of Samael, or he is Samael. But that is what Kubrick points to or allude to. So if John Lamb Lash is right, then I have a close case here. But they ain't that easy, as I told you before, because in different traditions, they point to different Demiurge. And I will elaborate on that a little bit and point to different Demiurges and how you can understand it. And I also think that Kubrick tried to tell you a lot of different things on different levels. So I think all of them are valid in some more or less more valid in combination to the movie The Shining and what Kubrick wanted to say. Yeah, next slide then. And I'm going to talk about the Watchers here. And I want to point out that this is not a human have said, because I am a practicing esoteric person. And I have my own teachers. And we are talking or communicate with these forces. And it's a method to it. And in the movie and my analysis of The Shining, I gave these forces a very bad rap, but it ain't that easy, because of course there is a method to the madness, to communicate with these forces if you do it with the right purpose. So this is something a watcher have said. I don't want to name names here. I just want you to take it in without any mental attachment to it. So this is not a human who said this statement, but let me read it to you. The mythology of man all holds grains of truth, while the rest is sickness from the golem god. They invent and contort characters in the political lore to wreck the cage around you. In biblical text, the golem god seeks to liberate the slaves, but also calls for obedience in slaves. The servants of the golem god do not even recognize this and other contradictions. And this is from the Watcher's point of view. And I think we all know what they are alluding to here.
Oh, yeah.
The Christian God, Jehovah, is the golden God according to them. Yeah, next slide. Outside of Colosseum, they erected a statue, quite interesting statue. I think they erected it 2020, but I'm not sure of it. And it was a statue of Moloch. And Moloch is one of Baal. And Baal is only a title. It's Lord. So if you only say Baal, it's just Lord. So they attribute a name after the title Baal. And Moloch is one of Baals. And I will read to you what it says, what we can say about it, or what others have said about them. Moloch. Moloch has been figuratively used in reference to a person or a thing which demands or requires a very costly sacrifice, and associated with a role as a sun god. And Baal as the Lord, this is more a generative term. The Lord is Yah. Yahweh is Baal. Combined the two, however, it is not certain whether they simply allude to the Canaanite god Baal or are intended to equate Yahweh with Baal. And then you have a god or a demon called Baal Hamon. Baal Hamon, however, was identified with the Greek Kronos and the Roman Saturn as the Sebub Saturn. This assertion appears in older scholarship. And then we have Baal Sebub. Jewish scholars have interpreted the title of Lord of the Flies as the Hebrew way of calling Baal a pile of dung and his followers vermin, although others argue for a link to power over causing and curing pestilence. And this is very interesting, and it is erected in Rome 2020. And Baal Sebub and his followers are spreading and curing diseases. I just mentioned that because of the situation today. And all of this is attributed to Moloch, Baal, and some allude to the Jehovah the Christian god here. Okay, next slide. A very interesting tarot deck by Travis McHenry is the Occult Tarot. It is 7-8 cards, as all the other tarot cards, but all of them have a demon on it attached to the card. Next slide. And in the first part, we were talking about card 13, 14, and 15 equals 42. In this card, the big arcana, number 13 is Lucifer, number 14 is Croswell, and number 15 is Moloch, equals 42. And these demons have some attributes attached to them. And I want to point out what Moloch's attribute is. Make one worse than ever before. Tricks mortals into being bound. Accept child sacrifice. Moloch. And all these attributes is on this card. All the 7 cards. 7 8s. Sorry. Next slide. We had a very interesting movie, and I think it was 1927, by Fritz Lang, Metropolis. And they find a lot of new material, lost material. So now the movie is 2 hours and 25 minutes long or something.
Right.
But the movie had a very interesting theme, and a very strange one at that. Because it seems to do a combination of communism, worship, Moloch, and transhumanism in a strange combination. I don't know if you have seen it, but you should.
I loved it.
And I talk
Very
a lot
Gnostic
about
too.
the Tower of Babel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the fully restored version.
Very-
It's good.
Yeah, you should see it. Very interesting. 1927, so it's a very old movie, 100 years almost. But I was thinking about the combination of this technology, transhumanism, Moloch, and communism. What is the common link here? But what I think he's trying to say, Fritz Lang, is it's an allegory of the Plato's cave as well, and the noble lie. So you have an esoteric elite who control the population, or the mainstream man, or with the communism as their propaganda or their philosophy. But the elite themselves doesn't believe that. It is important for them that the public believe in something, but they have kept their hidden truth or secrets or esoteric tradition for themselves in order to control the masses. They spread a noble lie. This is what I think Fritz Lang tried to tell you in this movie. Yeah, next slide. There are one more very interesting tarot deck, Sola Busca tarot deck. I don't know if you know about it. It's a Mithraic theme in this tarot deck. And a man named Peter Mark Adams have written a book called The Game of Saturn about this tarot deck and his analysis of it. Very, very interesting book. I'm going to... I have a quote in his book stating, the one thing that both of these kingdoms had in common, Rome and Carthage, was the worship of the ram-headed god Baal Hammon, who served as their supreme deity. For the Romans, this god shared many of the properties of and was therefore considered to be identical with Cronus Saturn. As we noted in the Bible, this notorious god was known as Moloch, a name derived from his characteristic sacrifice, molk, or child immolation. Now we're back to Moloch again in the Bible, but now we had another name, Baal Hamon, and it's associated with Saturn. This is very interesting. All roads lead to Saturn.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah, next slide then. And we come to the movie A Clockwork Orange. And on the walls, we can read Moloko and Drenchrome and Syntemesk and Velocet. And this is attributed to Moloch and a milk as a substance. They drink milk instead of like beer or wine, and they have this milk bar where they go, this gang. And milk laced with a drug. In the book A Clockwork Orange, milk bars would sell milk instead of alcohol so that they could serve minors. And minors and kids is a very common theme in Kubrick's movies. The milk would be laced with designed drugs. Note that in real life, milk is not very effective delivery system for most psychoactive drugs. Sorry,
Right.
but I think Kubrick tried to tell something else here. Of course, that's the reason I chose this milk theme in the movie. Yeah, next slide.
Yeah, some have said it's adrenochrome that was in the milk, or that's what Kubrick was trying to convey.
Yeah, there are a connection there, and I will show you the connection. In the first part, we were talking about number 11, and it's called twin and esoteric tradition. And the reason is because it consists of two ones. 1 plus 1 becomes 2. And 11 is a very important number in esoteric method and theory. And if you add up the number 1 to 11, you got the number 66. And 66 is a very important number as well, of course. And you have this famous word abrahadabra attached to number 11. And it's the hexagram and the pentagram combined. 5 plus 6 equals 11. So this number is very important. And there are many different meanings and you can draw from it. But it has to do with esoteric method. To communicate the spirits or to connect to the astral plane, to a higher plane. Yeah, next slide. And then we come to a subject many have talked about. And it's the Anunnaki. And some believe they came for gold. And I think it's Zachariah Sitchin who talked about it a lot, write some books about it. And there are many different theories who they were. I believe they are talking in symbolic terms here. I don't believe they were here for gold, the physical gold. But I think they were here for solar energy, DNA, or body fluids. They were here to mine solar energy or us. Next slide. For example, Michael Tellinger think they were here to mine gold. I don't see why an advanced race as Anunnaki would need gold. Couldn't they create gold themselves? We can create gold. It's expensive, sure, but if they were very advanced, surely they have technology to produce gold cheap. So I think they are talking in symbolic terms. This is just a theory for me. Next slide. So we have different kinds of gold, I would say. And I think in the recent days or years, we can see that there is a certain elite who are very interested in body fluids. When you communicate with spirits, some of them, it's easier to get in contact with them through blood, for example, or other body fluids, like sperm or menstrual blood. So our DNA is the beginning of this. Make it possible. Our DNA makes this possible, and it is very important. Yeah, next slide. And I come back to another quote, and I want to point out that this ain't a human. It's a watcher who states this. The cliphotic shell represents what science once called junk DNA. The cliphotic shells are the one on the other side of the tree of life, the cliphotic tree. This DNA is potential found in your current being, which mankind assume is not encoded. Codes of divine power were once written within this junk DNA. They have been extracted by the manipulation of the environment stimulus you experience. And this is from one of the watchers. I don't name names here. But it's a very interesting statement. It alludes to that they have closed off some DNA strands in us to make us more easy to control. Next slide. And the question I have, this is just a question, a speculation you can call it. Can Saturn be a mind sun, a previous sun, a sun before, to move energy between suns through technology? And we have something called Thunderbolts project. And even Nikola Tesla's technology alludes to some of this. The possibility of this. And we can see on the pole of Saturn you have an hexa. The Anunnaki gods were many, but in Sumeria, Babylon, they talked about not all of them, but some of them were the main characters. And you have Anu, and Anu was the highest god. And Anu, according to traditions, let's take traditions talking about this as the Sky Father. He has never been on our plane or our planet. Anu had two sons, Enlil and Enki. Enlil is attributed with symbols, is attributed with wheat, corn, and a bull. And other names for Enlil is Jehovah. And his family is Ninlil, Ninurta, and Ishtar. And I'll talk about them later on. Enki is attributed with a goat, snake, and a fish. And you have Enki becomes the devil, of course, and Enlil the good god, Jehovah. And you see how this devil thing starts to come about. Other names for Enki is Ptah and Poseidon. So Poseidon in Greek mythology is Enki. And these two family lines was in war with each other over two different ideas, what they wanted to do with the human race. Next slide. I start off with Enlil's line. And Ninurta is Enlil's son, and Ninurta is Saturn in Sumeria, Babylonian mythology. Attributed to the number 50. And his symbol is a sickle. There are more symbols, of course, but that's the most important. And other names is, of course, Kronos, Saturn. And you have Ishtar, and Ishtar is also very interesting. You have Ishtar in Aleister Crowley's writing about the Scarlet Woman, the Scarlet Whore, the Babylon, and so on. And Ishtar was a renegade daughter to Enlil. They couldn't control her. So it was all over the place. They couldn't decide what faction she would belong to. And you have Nanna Sin. And Nanna Sin is the moon god. And in Sumerian mythology, the moon god is a man, male, or androgen, male and female combined. And then you have Nergal, and Nergal is Mars, and you have Shamash, and Shamash is the sun. All this comes from Enlil's line. Next slide. Then we come to Enki. And this Enki, one more, Miguel. And Enki, as I said before, is the devil. And he had a son, Marduk. And this is very important because Marduk ain't a 100% god, but 50. Because Enki took a human wife and begat Marduk. So Marduk have 50-50 god and human DNA. And Marduk had a son named Nabu. And Marduk is, other name for Marduk is Zeus, Thor or Thor, Aten-Ra, and Amon-Ra in Egypt. And Nabu is, of course, Hermes and Horus. Why is this important? I think they had an agenda here. Let's say this mythology is all true, and let's say these gods have a hard time to be here on Earth with us. Something seems to be working against them, our nature's law or something. What do you do if you know that the time is shifting and it will be harder for you to take physical form on the planet Earth? You take a human woman, so you have a half god and a half human, then it's easier for this half god to operate on our planet. On Enki's, for Enki. And Marduk take another woman, human woman, and he gets 75% human DNA and 25 God DNA, and you have Naboo. It should be easy for Naboo to operate on this planet if we have 75% DNA, human DNA, and 25 God DNA. Then he is more human than God. Then he can operate on this planet more easily. And let's say their agenda is to have an elite class with the God DNA who can work for them on this material plane without any problem. And this elite is working to bring them back again through technology. It's just a theory, just a thought I have. Next slide. I also know that it was a war between these factions. And a very interesting myth is Gilgamesh. So you have this Gilgamesh, half god, who I think we don't understand what they try to say. I think I understand what this mythology is about. It's about a half god trapped on the material plane who seek a stargate in order to be able to leave. And then we come to the movie Matrix. Smith tried to do the same. He is a software trying to escape the material world. But everything he got. And Gilgamesh is the same mythology. This is a half god who tried to escape the material through a stargate. And he had to fight the cosmic bull in order to open the stargate. And the bull is Jehovah Enlil. In order to open this stargate, to defeat the cosmic bull and the closed stargate, because Enlil doesn't want us up there, because he thinks we are too noisy. So he has closed the stargates. And Gilgamesh is trapped here with us. That is the mythology of this Gilgamesh mythology. So we have a cosmic war, you can say. And it's about the human race, stargates, and an elite with upgraded DNA. Yeah, next slide. And you have Ninurta. Ninurta is Enlil's son. And Ninurta is portrayed with a thunderbolt. This is from 800 BC. Next slide. On the other side, you have Marduk. And Marduk was supposed to be the highest of the Anunnaki god, because he defeated Tiamat and became the champion of the Anunnaki gods. And when he became the champion of the Anunnaki gods, he got this sigil who says, I am the highest god. And I think we have misunderstood this idea of one god. From the beginning, they didn't say, I am the only god, but I am the highest god. The other Anunnaki gods exist, but you should only worship me as the highest deity. It didn't say, I am the only god who exists, the other doesn't exist. No. I am the highest of these gods, and you should only worship me. I think that come concluded, they changed it to one monotheistic religion later on, step by step.
Mm-hmm.
And you see his sigil is a pyramid, truncated pyramid, with an 8-pointed star. And the 8-pointed star is Anunnaki star. The Anunnaki star.
Also the sign of Ishtar too, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a sign of the Anunnaki race or gods. Yeah, next slide. So I think we have an agenda here. And we can see this truncated pyramid on the dollar bill, USA dollar bill. And of course you can speculate who it is and so on. But money, gold, seems to be very important for them. And I think we have been important for them to build their infrastructure. And in order to build the infrastructure, you need material, goods, and labor. But now we have built the infrastructure for them. We aren't that important any longer for them. And this is what I think we see today. Next slide. So the gold room, or the sun room, I think Stanley Kubrick tried to say many things with it. It's an energy stealing thing. You have Danny, he shines. They try to steal energy from us. And according to Crowley, all humans are also star. We are star energy, solar power, DNA. Next slide. And we see this gold room and the number 6, Thagirion. And Thagirion is really 666. So when people are talking about the number 666, more correctly in esoteric lore, you are talking about the sun, the dark sun. The sun behind the sun. Not the sun you see with your eyes, but the sun behind it, or the dark sun. And we can see in the previous presentation, I was writing about Shamash and this elite and the ghost elite. But the question is, are they trapped themselves in this game? Are they humans or are they ghosts? Have they lost their humanity? Who are they? And what is their purpose in the sun or gold room? And why do they kill children and use them for what? And what is the purpose of Danny? Yeah, next slide. And I take one more quote from Watcher. Cannot truly be separated from this potential, or else the clayborn, it is us, existence could not be set in place. That is the hidden Sephira, because if mankind had access to this side of existence by default, they could not be enslaved and harvested to benefit the Archons.
Wow.
And that is one of I consider my teachers who have contact with these forces. Next slide. And we come back to the demiurge, Baal-Hamon and the hypercosmic demiurge. And as I mentioned before, one of the watchers also said that they have closed off some of our DNA. And in the text of the Anunnaki, the mythology, they are talking about an android race who worked for them before they created the human race. And this android race they are talking about didn't have a free will. They couldn't procreate. Sounds like the Greys for me. I think the Greys are androids. Something like that. But Enki had an idea, I think. If they had a hard time to be active on this plane, why not have a race help them come back when the time is right, or when the technology is there to take them back, to alter the fabric of nature, to suit them better through technology. And I think it has been an agenda also to close off our DNA. With the surf class, for example. Yeah, next slide. And I'm back to the book, The Game of Saturn by Peter Mark Adams. And I will quote some of it, because it's very, very important. Literary context and symbols point unerringly towards supremacy of Amun Saturn in the worldview of the deck's designer. And this is a tarot deck with a Mithra theme. We had earlier identified Vekatulu as a symbolic representation of this deity and the planetary intelligence of Saturn. Based upon the deck's evident polysemy, we can also decode 5 Cthulhu as a representation of the hypercosmic demiurge. Saturn occupies the outermost of the planetary spheres, where it serves as the gateway to the sphere of the fixed stars. Depictions of the hypercosmic demiurge are typically derived from a common pool of stock imagery: lion, ram, or human, serpent-bodied or body enwrapped by a serpent, surrounded by zodiacal signs of a body inscribed with zodiacal signs. Cloven hooves, a reference to god Pan, whose name in popular etymology means all, or human feet, bearing a long staff and or keys. The demiurge stands over and controls the gates of the sun, to which he holds the keys. He bears an inclined staff representing control over the Earth's polar axis and hence its daily rotation. So here you have a quite good description of the demiurge and his control over gates. Next slide. In this deck, Sola Busca, you have a very Mithraic theme, and we go back to Babylon and the Old Testament. The card 21, Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the last big Mardukite king. And it was Nebuchadnezzar took the Jews from Jerusalem to Babylon. And it's quite famous, the book Daniel is about this. And you have Nimrod. Nembruto is his name in the deck, but it is Nimrod. And Nimrod, and this is very interesting, Nimrod is different interpretations, but according to the Babylonian tradition, the Babylonian esoteric tradition, Nimrod was Ninurta, and Ninurta was Enlil's son. And Ninurta was Saturn. So you have this Anunnaki god attributed with a planet or a sun, who strikes down the Tower of Babylon. And the Tower of Babylon was the Mardukites who tried to reach God, open up gates through technology with this Tower of Babylon, who was struck down by Enlil. So it's a very common theme to open gates, to have access to the star, the universe, to be able to leave or come down here to the material plane, to enter. Next slide. In the Thunderbolt project, they are talking about and this weapon, this Thunderbolt they're talking about. Can it be some sort of technology? And we come to the Veda scriptures and the Hindu gods and Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita. And I think they are writing about the same Anunnaki war, but the gods have different names, a little bit different themes, but it's the same story, written in different language. Next slide. In esoteric lore, we used to say Saturn is attributed with matter, or of illusion, becomes solid matter, lead, masculine control, time, schedule, restriction, and intellect. Next slide. And you have this, and with all lines from a hexa, you get a cube. And black cubes are in some big cities around the world. Santa Ana, Manhattan, Australia, and Denmark, and of course the most famous one in Kaaba. And in the Kaaba, you have a silver, right? Inside this black cloth, they have a silver pussy. It's Ishtar, because Ishtar was a renegade daughter who couldn't be trusted. And she was supposed to marry Marduk. So these family lines would be united through their marriage. But it never came about because Ishtar didn't want the marriage. Neither did Marduk. But she is considered to be a very renegade lady that you can't trust, and are very esoteric and had very esoteric knowledge. And it led to a war between these two factions, between Marduk and Ishtar, where it says in the text that Marduk escaped and was locked in the main pyramid in the Giza plateau as a prison for Marduk, where he was like entrapped. Next slide. and watchers. And take next slide, Miguel.
Next slide.
Now you see that they are, yeah, that's one, that's correct.
Okay.
Now you see that they are already arming their astral arsenal. If they can't dominate your species physically, they will do it spiritually. They fear the apocalypse, for Saturn's storm formed a cube not long ago. That was a sign of apocalypse that will ensue. And this is from them. And I think we all can feel this and see it. And an apocalypse is not the end of the world in esoteric tradition. It's the end of the old world and beginning of something new. But it will be a hard time. Yeah, next slide. So we see Daniel is playing on this hexa in matter. And it is also the cube of Saturn, incarcerated in matter. But he will soon rise up and go to the metaphysical, the other side of the moon, through the force, the power of 11, the combination of a penta and a hexagram. And the penta is, of course, attributed to Ishtar, the pentagram, Venus, the rebel lady, the rebel Anunnaki from Enlil's family line. Yeah, next slide. Sounds of silence. And another quote from this Watchers. By harnessing the sound of silence, or the sounds of the Hebrew alphabet, which are associated with each path upon the tree of knowledge, the first 22 strands of encoded information can be activated within the race of man. This is to take back the book of life from the false god. We can get access to this DNA they have closed off in us. But it has to be through a metaphysical journey. And these forces do the best to tell us that it ain't so. This agenda that we are only animals, this materialistic agenda to say that we are nothing but animals and nothing metaphysical exists, only materia, to hold us back, to restrain us from taking this journey through Saturn, for this masculine energy, this control system in place, this cube of Saturn we have to crack open and to start this journey. And we can shine, and they can't do anything about it if we start the journey. But what they can do is to convince us never to start it. But if you do, they can't stop you. But they can make it harder for you. And the best trick is to convince you that it ain't so. Then they have you inside this cube. That is a mental prison for your mind.
Yes. Quoting Morpheus, of course.
Yeah, maybe.
Or the mind-forged manacles that William Blake talked about.
Exactly. Yeah, next slide then. And you have this cliff of the tree of knowledge. And I talked about it in the first presentation, and someone said that Lilith get a bad rap. There are a method to this madness, I have to say, but you shouldn't take it lightly. When you confront these forces, you have to have the right intention when you do it. If you don't, you will fall. If you ain't mental stable, if you are a psychopath, if you seek control and power, you are completely the wrong person to do it. And I think it has been an elite, esoteric elite, who have used this against us through our politicians, because they are an easy target to make them do foolish things. And I'm an esoteric person myself. Feel has happened is this: they have taken all our method and turned it against us. That's what I feel. Everything that could free us, make us more powerful, not weak, they have turned against us. That is what I see. Next slide. So this is a war over DNA, and it is a transhumanistic agenda. And I think it starts to be quite obvious for us all. They want to use us. And in the movie Matrix, I think it's a beautiful allegory with the battery, where we have become batteries for the machine. This is a very good allegory, I think. I like it a lot. There are many things in that movie that is very good. And that is what I think they will try to achieve. And I also think they want to take us back to the state where we were androids before the Anunnaki upgraded us, according to this myth. Then we had no free will. We couldn't make children. They can control them. They want to take us back to that state. And I think that's one of the agendas behind the shots. I don't know how much you can talk about that, but let's leave it.
Code your language for the YouTube algorithm. That's what we don't suppress free speech here, but we just say code because the algorithms are mindless archons.
Yeah. Don't take the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay. The first part is ended. Sorry about, I had to divide it between 3 parts. I don't know why.
I don't think we'll be able to get to the third part or even the second part. How long is it? Because at the top of the hour, we'd have to jump off, which gives us 40 minutes.
We take the second part then. It's not that long.
All right. Real quick.
If it's okay with you.
Yeah, if we can do it. Yeah, no problem. Let's do the second part and we can always regroup for the third part or see what else. Yeah, this is fascinating. Vance, maybe one question. Go tit.
Oh gosh, I got to pick one.
Well, if nobody wants a super chat, you're just gonna have to pick one. It's unfortunately Saturn rules.
Yeah.
He causes the boundaries.
Yeah, it's hard to pick among the 3. I'll take Poo Poo wanted, who named themselves after their cat lost in the desert, wanted to know if any of the esoteric symbology in The Shining originated with Stephen King, or was it only in Kubrick's version? In other words, how much of the esoteric material that we all see in the movie, how much of that was really Stephen King's doing, and how much was Kubrick's doing?
Yeah, I haven't read the book. I cannot answer that. I'm very interested in the book. I know that Stephen King know a lot of things in his book. There are a lot of esoteric information. Lawn movie. I haven't read the book. But just I can only answer top of my head. Kubrick liked to take others' work and twist it around and run with it. And it gives you also more different interpretation. If you read the book and watch the movie, you get more out of it. It's very clever. In Space Odyssey 2001, Arthur C. Clarke wrote a book at the same time they did a movie. If you read the book and the movie, you will see this, that Kubrick have changed things, but you get more out of the movie, even though you get more out of the movie when you read the book. That's the best answer I can give.
All right, thanks.
But Stephen King is very interesting. You should read his book. He knows a lot of things. Lawnmower Man is very good.
Of course, he didn't like what Kubrick did with The Shining, but that's another whole subject.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's because he changed too much.
Well, here's a question somebody had, I think was a valid question after our last presentation. They said, what was the point? What is Stanley Kubrick doing here with The Shining? Do we know? I mean, all the symbolism, everything, is he trying to expose the whole truth about the world? Or do you think he was conscious about everything that he's been putting? He was obviously a very meticulous man. Nothing was subconscious with Kubrick. Everything was meticulous on purpose to the little smallest detail. So you think he was trying to give us this sort of overarching view of our reality?
No, what I feel about these movies, and that's the reason why I want to
just The Shining,
yeah,
not the other.
Yeah, okay, yes, The Shining. No, he tried to say a lot of things he felt had to be said to the public, but he couldn't just say it outright. He was active during The Shining was 80 something, a long time ago, where the public wasn't ready. We didn't have internet. So in his movies and in Shining, he tried to say a lot of esoteric practices and how they used it against the public. But he also, with his other movies, it gets bigger because it's a big puzzle and he cannot say everything he wants to say in one movie. So he tried to connect them. They have a similar theme. A Space Odyssey 2001, A Clockwork Orange, and Eyes Wide Shut. Those four movies have similar theme. It's about transhumanism, an esoteric elite who want to use this technology without the public knowing they use the technology. Because if you have technology, the population cannot comprehend and doesn't think exist. You will be the one who control the population. And this is not something new. You had it in Greece, where they created a steam engine 400 or 500 before Christ. And a professor in history said, why didn't they manufacture it? And he came to the conclusion, well, then they didn't have any purpose for the slaves. No, it was an esoteric elite who buried the technology to use for themselves, because they didn't want to share it with the mainstream, because with this technology they can control the population. which they did in Alexandria, where they created statues who could move if you give it money. And they thought, it's the God who talked to me. So the ones who have the technology and doesn't want to share it with us can control us, as long as we doesn't
Makes
understand
sense, yes.
they have it and demand. Yeah. And that was one of the theme in Kubrick's movies. A Space Odyssey 2001. Yeah.
It
But
makes
it's
perfect sense, I would agree.
Yeah, in the book, exactly good point. I saw someone said it. They were supposed to go from the moon to Saturn, not to Jupiter, and that's an important part. And if you want to, I can talk about Space Odyssey 2001 later on, but it's very, very interesting movie. And I had a big revelation 2 weeks ago.
Can't get enough Stanley Kubrick here at Aeon Byte. Don't worry about that. There's always room for Stanley Kubrick. We've only gotten started.
I saw in the chat room, and you have a wonderful audience. Very good questions.
Yeah, very knowledgeable.
Yeah. And they look up information like the Screech Owl and Lilith. And Lilith is more in the Zohar than in the Old Testament, so it's a correct observation. And the Old Testament is just referred to as the Screech Owl. But in the Zohar, there are a lot more about this lady. But as I said, it's a method to the madness. She's not all bad, but you have to work with these forces, work with this darkness, transform it, not indulged in it.
Awesome. So what's the next slide? Just so I make sure I've got all the slides now uploaded.
Secret of Tarot.
It's which one? Let me see. Is it part 3 or the
3 or 3? Sorry, no, it's the last part.
All right, hold on. Let me see. Shining, go away. Let's see. I've got them all here, but the problem is it is not showing.
The number 2B is the second part. Sorry about this. It was strange, very, very strange.
No, when you upload it from StreamYard, it doesn't catalog. So I'm sort of here in the dark. Let's see. Oh my God, I keep getting the wrong one. I'm getting angry like the demiurge. All right. Oh, please, let me see if I can.
Doesn't work.
Is that it?
There you have it.
Hey.
Nice, yes. Thank you.
Let's get started. Yeah, Vince, can you handle the slides? I'll be right back.
I shall do so. Okay.
Birdie will handle it too, I see.
Yeah, he can hear him back there. He's calling me. Says, you've been on this too long, but too bad, Birdie.
Yeah.
Okay, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I think everyone knows the Tree of Life and the Tarot card and how they place it on the tree. And this ain't the Kabbalistic tradition or method, but it's more of a, I don't know, Gnostic idea, maybe Christian Kabbalah, maybe. But it's an interesting.
Crowley actually has the signs on the cards on the Toltec.
Yeah, exactly. And Crowley is probably one also. But it's very interesting. But I'll say, next slide. Now, I will show you some secrets of the tarot. No one has said before. If you put the cards 1, 2, 3 on the bottom row, and then you place 4, 5, 6 on the next row, and then 7, 8, 9 all the way up to the last card. You have 3 towers with 7 cards each. So you have 1, 2, 3 on the first row, and you have 4, 5, 6 on the second, all the way up to number 21. the universe. And if you count the number 1 plus 2 plus 3, you got the number 6. If you count 4 plus 5 plus 6 equals 15, and 1 plus 5 is 6. Then you got 24, 30, 33, 42, 51, and 60. All of those numbers add up to 6. So you have 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. And that is a very Mithraic number. It's, as I said before, it's alluding to the black sun. The sun behind the sun. Some people will say the sun, but I say the black sun. And if you take 7 times 6, you got the number 42. We have 7 cards in a row here as a tower. So 7 times 6 is 42. So this fool, or card number 22 or number 0, is supposed to make this journey through these cards, through 1, 2, 3, and all the way up to number 21. The fool carries all this card in his bag. The fool is number 42. You are the fool. Everyone here is the fool. We are the people, the mainstream people called the fools, who have crazy and strange ideas about reality and about us, the human race, our family. So you should play the part well. We are the fool. But when you know you are the fool, then your journey begins. Then you can go somewhere. And you're going out of the dark, or from a cliff, and you will fall, and you will stumble and fall, and you will rise up again until this journey is done. But meanwhile, you will be called the fool, I can promise you. Not only by other people, but also from your own ego. Your own ego will try to convince you that you are the fool as well. So it's not only other people. You yourself will convince yourself that you are the fool. This journey is not worthwhile. You are wrong. Better to watch sport and TV. Have a good life. Don't struggle, don't train. Don't practice. It's a waste of your time, your effort. All that. Feelings. If you haven't got them, you will have them. The important part here is to say 66666 is a very Mithraic number, and it's encoded in the tarot card. And you also have 777, and of course 777 is 21. A 777 is a very important number as well. Next slide. If you take the middle part of this tower, so you only have the middle cards, you have 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 20. And if you add them up, you have the number 77. And 77 is in Thelema, 77 is Babylon. And you have 7 plus 7 is 14. And we come to the card art, I talked about later on in the previous. 77 is also very interesting. I don't want to bring this up, but some people might start to think about a very sad tragedy, 2001 on USA. The Twin Towers, 3 towers were struck. And you will see this number over and over again I don't know how much I'm going to talk about it today, but you will see it. Yeah,
9/11 is not one of those we get strikes for.
Yeah.
Even the algorithms are getting wiser or coming to terms with reality.
Yeah. Crazy. You can't talk about everything.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, but I think your audience know what I mean. 77 is a number you will see in that tragedy if you're searching for it. And tower. Got twin towers. And third towers were strike. As in the previous slide, you have 3 towers. Next slide. The minor arcana have 56
Here, I'll
cards.
take over. I'll take over.
All right, you got it. You got it.
Thank you. Slide wars. Come on.
The minor arcana have 56 cards. Or 4 trumps. You have wands, cups, sword, and pentagrams, and 14 cards in each trump. And if you add up 1 to 14, it adds up to 105. And 105 times 4 adds up to 420. And 420 equals 42 because the 0 is 0. And 14 times 4 is 11. So you have 11666. Another Mithra reference. Solar, or the black sun, sun behind the sun. Yeah, next slide. And now we come to a very interesting part. Mithra tarot card, and this is the reason why I had to show you the previews, because the philosopher Jason Reza Giuliani was talking about that the tarot was Mithra based, and I have to agree with him on this one. That is what I see as well, and I think the tarot came from Iran and the gypsies from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And there are a lot of Mithra encoded in it. Next slide. And we have this famous symbol, slaying the bull. We have the snake and the dog, the war between the darkness or the evil and good, and Mithra as a mediator. And we come back to this Enki and Enlil, this Anunnaki war between families. And Enlil was a bull, symbol was a bull. You come to this bullfighting in Spain, here in Europe, in Spain, bullfighting, where you have a Mordecai warrior slaying the bull. And it also, the Scythian race is very much associated with the Mithra tradition. And a lot of sun symbolism. And the Phrygian cap, of course, is the Smurf cap. And the Smurfs and all of that is. And I think Jason Reza Giuliani made a very good contribution to bring up the Mithra tradition to the forefront. And I've read his books, and I can only say you should read them. So I have to say thanks to Jason. And I want to point out things here. And my own contribution to this Mithra revival. In a book, I'm sorry I didn't write the name of the book, but Jason recommend one book about the Mithra tradition. I can write it up. But they said from the beginning in the Mithra tradition, the Mithra tarot had 24 cards in the Major Arcana equals 80 tarot cards instead of 77. And this should be the order of the cards. You can take the next slide.
Next slide. Okay.
So this should be the order from the beginning, the original Mithra tarot tradition. So you have 24 cards instead of 21 here. And 2 of them, we don't know what it was. Number 22 and 24, you don't know what was on them. But let's say this is true, and I think it is, but I cannot prove it. You will have the next order instead. If you take the next slide. And this is very interesting when you talk about the shining, because then you have again 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. But the middle pillar becomes 100. And 100 associated with the moon room, or the physical moon. And in the row you have the card art in the middle of the pillar. And you have this last card number 11. Crowley changed to lust. And it's the number 11. And you have the penta and the hexagram becomes 11, the magic force. And then it's rising up with the number 11, transform through art, craft making. And he do this because it goes to the moon room or the tree of Clifford to the other side and meet Lilith. And I had number 22 and 24. We don't know what was on them, the symbols. But if that's true, it's very interesting. And you have 8, 8, 8 instead of 7, 7, 7, of course. The next slide. I want to point this out. This is a detail, but it's an important one, I think. If you take the card number 7 and 7T and strange 7, 7, 700. Shit. My computer started to do things on their own.
Those Archons and
number 7. Yeah, they started up the Siri, the artificial. Oh. Anyway, anyhow. Yeah. The card number 7, 70, and 700 in the Mithra tradition tarot card is 7 is the Hierophant, 70 is the Sun, and 700 is the Tower. Tower of Babylon. And there are meaning attributed to this card as well. You have the Hierophant. The Greek name is Zeta. The Roman name is Flammen. And Janus Quirinus. And the number is 11. Mithra meaning sacrifice. Card number 70 is the Sun. The Greek name is Omicron. The Roman name is Victor Unus. And the Mithraic symbol is the sun. And 700 is the tower. The Greek name is Psi, Greek letter. The Roman is Ruina, and the Mithraic meaning is Zeus, Marduk, or Amun-Ra, Aten-Ra. And the Mithric tradition doesn't talk. You can use it for good and for bad, but the original meaning is, of course, you should sacrifice yourself, not animals, not, you know. But this is how they use it, or want to use it. Next slide. Janus stargates and the number 11. Next slide. We have this two-faced god, Janus, and Janus number is 11, and Janus month is January, and the first day in each month is attributed to him. January the 1st is 11, attributed to Janus. And sometimes you have a lady attached to his head as well, Cardea. And Cardea, or Carda, was the ancient Roman goddess of the hinge, Roman doors being hung on pivot hinges. Cardea is associated with two otherwise unknown deities who preside over doorways. She is the queen of corporality, to be incorporated in your body. Janus is a god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. He is usually depicted as having two faces. The month of January is named for Janus. And you have all kinds of different meaning attached to the god Janus. He can see the future and also back in time. He sees the material world and into the metaphysical world with his two heads. Next slide. Sorry about that. It's a picture of Janus there. But you have Vatican and the Vatican weapon. You have two keys, one of gold and one of silver, crossed. It's to say that they control doorways or stargates with these keys. Next slide. Corporation is a very interesting word. Latin corporatione, assumption of a body used of the incarnation of Christ. None of action from past participle stem of Latin corporare, embody, make or fashion into a body, from corpus. Body, dead body, animal body, a structure, system, community, corporation, political body or guild. Meaning legally authorized entity, artificial person created by law from a group of succession of persons, such as municipal governments and modern business companies, is from 1610. That's a very interesting word and meaning behind it, and where it comes from. It's based on incarnation, reincarnation. Next slide. We have this magic square of the sun. I don't know how much you know about squares, but every planet have their own squares, and the sun have theirs. And each row adds up to 111. And the sum of all rows leads up to 666. But in esoteric lore, 666 is a number attributed to the black sun, or the sun behind the sun, not the physical sun. So I think this is the exoteric explanation behind the number 666. But the real explanation, esoteric explanation, is the black sun, the sun behind the sun. One very interesting, in the previous presentation, you have the gold room and the cliphotic tree, and they ended up in the black sun, the gold room, the Thagirion, called the cliphot. It's called Thagirion. The number is 666, called the gold room. You have a coin minted called Delta, and Delta 100, home of the sun god. And it's a reference also to the moon. And in the previous presentation, we have the connection between the moon and sun, where Danny goes from the moon room to the sun room. So it's a connection there, of course. And if you remember in Space Odyssey 2001, where they come to the moon, the astronauts found an artificial construct on the moon. Someone has been there. They do not talk about aliens, only that something have been there. And they have been led to the moon through a slab, black slab, who send a signal to the place, some kind of technology. Next slide. You have this number 11, and as I said, it's the word Abrahadabra is connected to the number 11. And if you add up the number 1 to 11, you got the number 66, and also the number 12. And in the moon room 237, if you take them times each other, you get 42. But if you take them plus, you get the number 12. So these numbers keep coming back at you in the movie The Shining, if you can see them. Because 11, the twins, the two ones, are also 66, solar power, or the beginning of the solar power. But also 666, if you add them up, you got the number 18. And 18 is the card, the moon card in the tarot deck. And 18 is, of course, 1 plus 8 equals 9. And it was the 9th Sephira, or the 9th Cliphot, the moon room, and the lady and the Lilith was in the number 9 Cliphot. And that's the number of initiation. And someone was talking about that Danny goes through an initiation, and yes, that's exactly what it is. Because we have to confront these dark forces and work with it, transform it. It's not a bad thing if you have the right intention, but as everything, knowledge can be used against us as well, especially if you have an elite with a transhumanistic agenda, because they put technology over all of this. Instead of transforming mentally, they will use technology to gain the same kind of a result. And if they use it against us, it will be not good for us. It will have effect. And I think about this a lot, and it seems to be as above, so below, as within, so without. So everything you can do from within also take physical form outside of you, like technology. It exists outside of you as well. for an elite to use against us, because they have lost the light, the spark, the connection with the Creator. And if you have lost that spark, you will take it back through technology, because they refuse to use the ego to transform in the right way. The ego is in their way. And they refuse to transform. They will use force instead. Next slide. Now I come to a big reveal. I think some of you might have heard about this before, but this part I call the eternal return, and it is about reincarnation. I hope you have paid attention so far, and I will put it all together. Next slide.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and that's Sola Busca, the tarot card. They think it was made 1419 in Italy, in Ferrara. Next slide. And it is a card with a heavy Mithraic theme in it. And the name is Sola Busca. And it was an elite Italian family who ordered the deck in order to control the masses, because they felt they have lost control over the population. So they wanted to use this as an esoteric method in order to control the masses. That's one purpose behind it. There are many, and I will go to the main purpose and why it is connected to the Shining. Number 8 is Nerone and the sacrificial rites. Nerone, Nero, whatever the Carthaginian practice of Molk or Nero praxis of human sacrifice in connection to Mithraism. And many believe that Nero was a Mithraic practitioner.
Interesting.
And if you add up his name with the Chaldean gematria or numerology, you get the number 666. And 666 is a Mithraic number and contribute to the sun or the black sun. And you see the idea of sacrifice and molk or milk. You have the card number 20, Nimrod, as I mentioned before, and the tower. And you have something in esoteric lore called EXXI gate. And if you separate them, you got 911. And 911 equals 20. And the card 20 is Nimrod and the falling tower. And you have the card 21, Nebuchadnezzar. He was the last big Mardukite king in Babylon. He wanted to usher in a big Mardukite revival in Babylon, because they could choose which god they worshipped in these different cities. But Babylon was a very heavy Mardukite center of worship. And during the time of the tower, let's say 1850 BC, the Mardukite Marduk was as high as he ever was, and the Mardukite priesthood was very mighty. And Nebuchadnezzar wanted to go back to that golden Mardukite age and build another tower in another city, a new Babylon tower. And I think that's a very dangerous idea if you use technology as well. So this is always a struggle between the esoteric who want to transform mentally and the ones who want to transform with technology. alter DNA, combine human with machine, connect humanity to the computers or internet systems, and stuff like that. Next slide. You have 15 fixed stars, and one of them is Sirius. And Sirius is very important in Freemasonry. And even, I don't know if how many Freemasons know this themselves, but it is a very Mardukite-based tradition where they build temples, architecture, many similar ideas. You have 15 fixed stars, and they are outside the zodiac. So if you want to escape this plane of existence, you have to use the fixed stars. And you have one golden gate. That's the God's gate between the pinches of Scorpio. That's the gold key. And you have a silver key, the bull, Enlil. And that's the human gate, and that's the exit. Aldebaran is the fixed star in the silver gate, and Antares in the gold gate. These two stars are very important, and it's about your incarnation. Next slide. And this is from the book The Game of Saturn. The path to the north, the gate of Cancer ruled by the moon, is previous to mankind. In other words, it only allows souls to enter incarnation. But the gate to the south, that of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, to immortals, is consigned. That is to say, provides the path of ascent upon to the immortal soul after leaving its body. So what's the agenda here? If you have an esoteric elite who knows this, they will start work to have a conscious reincarnation back here again in order to remember past lives. And it's easier to reincarnate down to your own bloodline. And we see this, the elite want to marriage within their own family. Because it's easier to come back in your own bloodline or family. And this, I think, is an agenda. One of them. Next slide. Ambrosia, nectar of the gods. The busy bees are the souls drawn towards incarnation by the desire for honey delicious, the pull of material satisfaction. And you have this hexagon, this beehive. They don't want to work to ascend. They want to work to come back and continue their agenda they have put in motion for a long time ago. And because they cannot work with the light, they have used technology to go back to the planets they once had, like Moon, Mars. I think they have constructions there, technology there, they want to take back, or to make bases there again, to make them work again, re-engineer the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide. And you have this idea or the food of the gods, and they are usually attributed to honey. Ambrosia. In Greek mythology, a sacred food made of honey and other sacred ingredients make humans and gods immortal. And of course, if you don't want to go back to the light and you want to come back, the ultimate goal is, of course, to have an immortal life. Then you don't have to reincarnate back here again, with the memory still there. And I think if I have to answer like Ike's question, I don't know how much you are into David Icke, but Icke got a question: why are they doing this? They will die anyway. They work for nothing. Well, if they come back and if they remember where they've ended, then they can continue with their agenda when they come back.
That makes sense.
They don't have to begin from the beginning again. They just continue with their agenda. So the agenda is set thousands of years ahead in the future. And I think this esoteric elite, come from the Marduk line. And I'm not saying necessarily that Marduk was an evil Anunnaki god. Sometimes it's good. Like here in Sweden, you have Thor, and Thor is a good guy. So here he was a good guy. And in Greek mythology, he was Zeus, and Zeus seemed to be very not so nice.
Yeah.
Marduk and Zeus in Greek mythology was very interested in human females, women. And Marduk in Babylon was, of course, the good guy, attacked by Enlil and Ninurta. And Ninurta was Enlil's son. So, but I think I have it's very dangerous to come down in material life, because then you will taste the fruits here as well. And everything that's good. There's a reason why we are here as well.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be corrupt. That's what I try to say. Next slide. We also have the Babylonian tree, or the Assyrian tree of life. And some argue different ideas what it is, but I think it's the pineal gland in their bag they are putting. But that's what I believe. Then you come to the pineal gland and the DMT it produces. And as an esoteric practitioner, I can say when the eye wakens, it's like a ticking feeling. You feel it like start to push out DMT or substance. Something happens anyway. So I think that is what it is. When you start to use an esoteric method, a valid esoteric method, you also wake up the pineal gland and you start to produce substance. Next slide. So for me, it's very clear. It's a hunt for DNA and other body fluids. And it is a little ironical and sad, because we have treated other animals as we are treated right now a little bit. Because it's not only harvest of DNA and body fluids, it's organs, limbs, body parts. It's a harvest. And if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would say it's some conspiracy shit. But today, I have to admit it is a lot to it.
Yeah, Doctor Who plays with that theme. It's like we go to Burger King, you don't think extraterrestrials would think of us as Burger King?
Yeah, exactly. And I see all these themes in Kubrick's movies, the 4 I mentioned before. So to go back to the question, Kubrick tried to get you into the maze because this is impossible to convey or tell a person on the street. This is something you have to discover. But with the movie, you become curious, and you have to do this journey yourself. I try to analyze it for you, but it's it's very hard. The reason why you can comprehend and can think it is something to it is because you are here. You have already started the journey. But if you haven't, this is important. You cannot talk about this. It's too much for the mainstream. They are too much behind. But I think Kubrick also know it will come a time where information through internet will be available and people like us can talk together. Me from Sweden and you from USA, and we can start to connect and talk about this. So the movie is not for his generation only. He had a hope that in the common generation that we follow, we will have more awareness, and this will start to unfold, and we can talk about it in a new manner and new light. And I want to stress one thing, if I may. As a practitioner, esoteric person, I know for a fact that you are light source, and there are much more to you than your body. And everyone can transform with the proper esoteric method. When I say all, of course you need to be like, if you are handicapped or if you are totally lost in the materialistic point of view, you will never start. But most of you can transform. Most of you can feel these forces. The trick is to convince you that you can't.
That's beautifully said.
Yeah. That's the demiurgic force. The black cube is a mental construct first and foremost for your mind.
Well said, and thank you for that very detailed and granular presentation. It's amazing. For the audience, I hope you can see David's email address. My God, that's long. Might be one of the longest email addresses ever. What happened to David blog? But I will put that in the show notes because then you'll get a lot of spam bombs. But I will have your YouTube channel on the show notes. And if anybody wants to get a hold of David, just email me and I can forward that long email over there. We are at the end. This has been an incredible presentation. Unfortunately, we won't have time for questions because I myself am pressed for Saturn and Chronos. But David, thank you. Yeah, you guys over there in the chat room, great comments. I always learn a lot from everybody in these areas. I learned a lot today. Vance, thanks for keeping us company.
Oh, no sweat.
Yeah, Miguel, I have one more part. I know we don't have time to do it now, but if you want to, I have one more part.
Yeah.
And if your audience want to, otherwise, I won't.
Let's do it. Let's regroup.
This will be about Eyes Wide Shut and A Space Odyssey 2001, and maybe the biggest reveal in film history and
Ooh.
the Space Odyssey 2001.
Awesome. Yeah, let's regroup for this, and hopefully we won't be attacked by Archons next time, but of course we will, because that's how they roll. They know exactly when to get us. But
I hope it goes smoother next time. I'm so sorry about this.
it
I've had
happens.
problems.
It happens. No worries. That was a great presentation.
Thank you. So
All
I
right.
Siri just started up on my computer, and music started to playing, and strange things happen.
They do, especially when you get closer to the truth. That's just the way it is. So awesome. Well, David, thank you. Thank you for the audience. Thanks for everybody. We'll regroup for the third part.
Thank you a lot,
this.
everyone.
Thank you. And as I always say, thanks for being here.
Nice.
Thanks for being
Take
yourself,
care,
your
all of
true
you,
self.
and
Thank you.
same.